Hello, welcome to my podcast again. Let's do some cheering. Yay! Woo! Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about stories and how they relate to the things we come across in everyday personal training lives. And this applies to the educator, and this also applies to the personal trainer or therapist or anyone who works with a client. So I spend a lot of time now talking about experience and how really getting to an end result with a client is about building experiences that make the client want to come and experience more, and then getting enough of that volume to happen that the person at the end of the sort of course or the end of the training gets to the place they want to, and as part of that develops a really good, interesting story. Now, when you're talking to trainers online and arguments happen, and what by trainer I mean physio and chiro and all that stuff, then they're sat inside their own story. So essentially, most people think they're in a story of some kind, and then they behave based on how their story in their head's going. So there's 7 sort of story archetypes, and those 7 story archetypes are the ones that sort of would cover all films, probably, and all stories, obviously. So what I want to do is sort of take you through them and give you an idea on how they relate to what we do. The one that's most obvious is overcoming the monster. So one of the archetypes called overcoming the monster, and that's where you have a big problem in the way, an external problem, really, even if it's kind of internal, so like it's an addiction to an external thing. And what you have to do is you have to beat that external problem in order to complete the story and get what you want. So as the hero, you need to beat that. For you as the trainer, working with the client as an obstacle, you need to be like the sidekick, the guide, the Yoda guru type to get that person through the door. And their experience each session has to be, right, we've beaten this once more, or another day it's been beaten. When you're talking about getting to other trainers getting into arguments, their obstacle might be that science is in the way and stopping things, or you hold a different opinion to me, and my opinion's what makes me successful, would make me successful had you not been around with your opinion. You're the monster. Science is the monster, research is the monster, whatever. The monster is normally the thing that people are kicking out against. And so trainers who've got themselves in the mindset that they're overcoming a monster, which was very popular in the mid-90s to mid-2000s, with the we'll bring down the phony researchers and we'll bring down the government trying to make us ill and we'll do it properly as trainers. If that's what you're thinking as a trainer, or what you're the person you're talking to online thinks as a trainer, or if that's how your client feels, they've got to overcome these things, you need to be the guru and the director and the sidekick in that story in order to have the role that will help most. In a rags to riches type story, which is a second archetype, that would be where you have potential, but you're just not fulfilling it. And so what you need there is you need someone as a guide who can pass things on to you to help you fulfill your potential. So it's a similar role to the first one, but now it's more internally driven. It's what do I have to do to unearth the skills I have. When your client comes in, they know they can get fit, they know they can do all the work. It's about motivation and desire and strategies when things go wrong, and it's less about how do we tackle all these problems, and it's more about what strategies do we use to ensure that you keep working to the top level of your potential and hit that end goal. In an argument where somebody feels they're under potential and they want to grow, quite often you see an over-aggression or a frustration in comments, and you see the person get upset. They see arguments going online, they get upset that the argument's happening because they can't understand why we can't just get on, and if we did, perhaps they could hit their potential. The quest is the third sort of archetype I want to talk about. This is when a gang of people, the hero and their sidekicks, travel to go and find something great. They have to defeat evil on the route, evil and powerful, and then when they come back, they get the treasure, and sometimes they get the girl or the boy they were chasing too. And so that's about overcoming several tasks, multiple problems. Quite often with a client, that's where a client comes in. They go, right, I can get fit, I want to get fit. I want you to help me. I've also got a nutritionist and a psychologist. And I know I've got things coming up that are going to be a problem, but I'm going to get them sorted. I'm going to get on the case to make this work. And that's where you're in that quest. So you're going to be one of the tools they use to get to their end result. When you get into arguments with people online, then what quite often happens is that if you meet someone on a quest, they'll start bringing their mates in. They'll be like, well, this is what I do. Oh, that's not the right thing to do according to the science. Well, let me introduce you to my science guru who will tell you it is the right thing to do. Or let me introduce you to my technique guru. And what they'll do is they'll start to build, well, it's a common sense kind of argument and me and my team are going to get there, and they kind of palm off responsibility around to their sidekicks to show they know what they're doing. And you quite often see that online where people say, well, because, and then insert my guru's name, then this is what I do. And they often lack confidence in their own ability at that point, even though they're on this quest to get somewhere. For you in that role, if you're helping the client, you can build a team. For you having that argument with that trainer, I'm not so sure it's an argument you want. You're going to be the obstacle and they're going to come at you in numbers. Maybe you need to examine your role. It's quite interesting when the quest meets the quest, and then you'll have two sets of people fighting. That's quite interesting. That happens a lot online. I think that when Faster is about, we seem to be the guys on the quest. So you quite often see a few of us jump in and chat. Voyage and return. So this story is about something's happened to them and they've got to make their way back. So for a client, this can often be an injury or an illness, and they've come to see you and they just want to get back to where they started. And so your role is to direct them back. It's very much like the quest, but the quest is to return, so they have a solid vision of where they were. This is really important when you get a client like this. It's because it feels less like achieving their goal and more like returning to their normal place. Lots of clients want to do this. Postnatal would be a great example of a client like this, where they've now got a baby they didn't have before. They want to return their body shape. They need help because it's not going to work the same way as before. But they know what they want to look like. They know what energy levels they need, and that's your role to sort of guide them and get them there. And so another archetype is sort of comedy. So comedy in a farce sort of way. So it's kind of before they can achieve their goal, they've got to get around obstacles that aren't easy or usual. And through doing this, they're going to constantly find themselves in some kind of mess. And it's quite an interesting place to be. So it's quite often a client will come to see you and say, I've seen 3 nutritionists who disagree. I have a physio, a chiropractor, an osteopath. My dietitian's arguing with all of them. My lifestyle coach is not happy. My sports massage therapist is arguing with my physiotherapist. That kind of scenario where they have all the experts in the world, but rather than taking on a quest, they're creating more and more problems for themselves with every person they meet. And so your role in that story is to be able to jump in and say, right, well, let me try and organise these. Maybe I can turn this comedy into a quest and try and get you through. Or maybe I'm just here to unravel it all for you and then let you find out what you need to do in order to make it to the place you're trying to get to. And so it's an interesting one to work with. If you're talking to a client like that, it's fairly simple. If you're talking to another trainer online they've probably found themselves saying something that they heard someone else say, they put it out there, lots of their friends don't agree, and they've come in to argue, and then that's set up 2 sets of experts who are friends arguing over a statement that the trainer made that they didn't really mean to cause that much problem with. And the comedy is that the more they say, the more they alienate themselves from both sides of the argument. And they can get upset by this because of the conflicting nature of everything when they just want to get to their end result. If you're seeing a trainer like that and you're in that argument, you're really too close to what they're saying. You need to step back and go, what is your story? Can I get into this boat? Thank you, Jason Schatz, for that brilliant way of describing helping get into the place of agreement with someone. Can you get into that boat? What are they really trying to tell you? I mean, they're trying to tell you I'm confused, but I want to make everyone happy. And then, so the final one is the final 2 to look at. We have tragedy, which I'm hoping doesn't happen. But this is when something goes ridiculously bad in their story and they're looking for it to go bad, or they don't see it coming and it's going to go bad. And I'm not sure that's got a place for us, but you might often see people on the end of a tragedy type story that you need to then help them turn into a quest, make their story a quest. Or even make their story about overcoming a monster, where the tragedy's the monster. You won't get into arguments with people in tragedy because they'll have given up. And then rebirth is, they were terrible and now they're amazing. And so you'll be able to perhaps take them through this. You'll be able to bring people from one point of view to another. And so you can direct that story. So you're probably going to meet them when they think something else. There might be a bit of argument on the way. There might be quite a lot of convincing, and you might see them move from one story archetype to another. But your role is really to take this person and get them into the place you want them to go. For a personal training client, that's the one that comes in and says, right, I'm not changing my diet, I exercise, I drink a bottle of wine every night, you ain't going to help me, I'm here because I've been told by my doctor. And then by the end of it, they're running marathons and doing kettlebell competitions because you were amazing at creating quests and creating monsters to jump. So they're the sort of, and just so we've got it, the kind of trainer that would get into an argument, a rebirth trainer, is the one that says, FMS is everything, screen everyone. And then they say, oh, fascia's everything, stretch everything. And then they go, fascia and FMS, rubbish, pain science, woo! And then they realise, it could be more. But the rebirth and normally the most quickest to become expert as a trainer, and perhaps the ones that get swayed quickest, not always by science, quite often by popularity. I'm probably a rebirth because of science. Anyway, I hope you like me babbling, and I'll talk to you next time I get a chance to do this. Ta-da!